The Hollow Earth. Myths, facts, and conspiracy theories. The Hollow Earth myth and its historical background. For centuries, the myth of the Hollow Earth has fascinated humankind, a mystery that captivates historians, adventurers, and conspiracy theorists alike. In the writings of ancient cultures and the narratives of great novels, there are hints of subterranean empires, hidden worlds, and gigantic cave systems that could exist beneath the surface of our planet. Even the ancient Greeks, Egyptians, and indigenous peoples spoke in their traditions of mysterious worlds hidden deep within the earth. These stories, often interpreted as metaphors for spiritual renewal or cosmic cycles, still raise questions today. Is the Earth actually hollow? And if so, what secrets are hidden within its depths? The idea of a hollow Earth gained new popularity in the 19th century with works like Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth, capturing the imagination of numerous adventurers and scientists. Verne's novel, a blend of adventure, science, and speculative fiction, firmly embedded the myth in humanity's cultural memory. Even though Verne's work was pure fiction, it fueled the belief in hidden, undiscovered realms beneath the surface, where perhaps even advanced civilizations existed. Parallel to these literary narratives, the 20th century saw the development of the belief that there could be hidden truths about the nature of our planet. Expeditions to remote regions like Antarctica, in particular, caused a stir and contributed to the mystification of the Hollow Earth phenomenon. Names like Admiral Richard E. Byrd, who allegedly encountered inexplicable phenomena during his secret Antarctic missions, became synonymous with the unexplained and hidden. According to reports and conspiracy theories, Byrd is said to have discovered not only subterranean cave systems, but entire cities hidden within an impenetrable network of natural and artificial structures. The fascination with this myth also lies in the supposed scientific approaches that attempt to decipher the unknown. Recent analyses based on special X-ray methods and geophysical surveys have allegedly revealed anomalies in Antarctica, indications of underground constructions that don't fit into the traditional model of Earth's dynamics. These reports, which are causing a sensation primarily in alternative scientific circles and on various YouTube channels, fuel speculation that there's more than mainstream science is willing to accept. But where does this alleged secrecy come from? Some theories claim that governments and international organizations have knowingly suppressed information about these phenomena for decades. The reasons are said to be diverse: fear of social upheaval, economic consequences, or the collapse of the established scientific paradigm. Whether these are actual discoveries or merely misinterpretations of scientific data remains an open question that continues to fuel humanity's curiosity and thirst for exploration. Over the centuries, the Hollow Earth myth has evolved into a melting pot of various theories and legends. From the ancient writings of ancient civilizations to modern reports of secret military missions, all these narratives share the common core idea that our world is more than what meets the eye. The first stage of our epic journey through the Hollow Earth myth is this introduction, an overview of the historical roots, literary influences, and the enduring appeal of a topic that evokes both fascination and skepticism. In the coming chapters, we will delve deep into the secret missions and reports of figures like Admiral Byrd, examine myths and legends from around the world, and connect the latest scientific findings with ancient traditions. We've also compiled all the reports of the famous writer Linda Moulton Howe on this topic for you. So stay tuned as we unveil the mystery of the Hollow Earth layer by layer and try to shed light on the darkness of the hidden worlds. Admiral Richard E. Byrd, the man behind the expedition. Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd was undoubtedly one of the most remarkable figures of the 20th century, whose life and career shaped the boundaries of human knowledge and the pioneering spirit. His expeditions to the unknown corners of the Earth, especially those to Antarctica, left a legacy of secrets and unsolved mysteries that still raise many questions today. But to understand why Byrd was chosen to lead one of the largest and most mysterious expeditions in history, we need to look at his life, his career, and the geopolitical currents of the time. The early years, rise of a pioneer. Richard Byrd was born on October 25, 1888, in Winchester, Virginia. Raised in a wealthy family, Byrd had access to the best educational institutions and was raised from an early age to be a man of exceptional determination and a strong sense of adventure. His father, a respected businessman and politician, encouraged his son's interests, particularly in technology and science. Even as a child, Byrd showed a remarkable interest in aviation, a passion that would decisively shape his future. In 1908, Byrd joined the U.S. Navy, where he initially trained as a naval officer. However, it was his decision to join the military as an aviator that would pave his way into history. In 1912, he was trained as one of the first Americans for flight duty and completed his flight training with flying colors. Byrd's talent and technical knowledge brought him into the circle of the best pilots and aviation pioneers of his time. Already in World War I, he made a name for himself as a pilot, and later as a consultant for aviation equipment and strategy. But it wasn't war that fascinated Byrd the most. It was the relentless search for the unknown expanses of the Earth. Byrd was inspired by the expeditions of the great polar explorers and dreamed of becoming the first person to reach the South Pole by air. The thought of filling in the last large blank spots on the map of the Earth drove him. The first expeditions, the rise to fame. In the early 1920s, Byrd succeeded in gaining the necessary funding and support for his own expedition. The first major success came in 1926, when Byrd and his team made the first successful flight over the North Pole in an airplane. The success of this journey brought him worldwide fame and opened doors for further projects, especially in the field of polar research. But Byrd had bigger goals in mind: the South Pole. In 1928, Byrd was given the opportunity to lead an expedition to Antarctica. Supported by the U.S. Navy, the government, and various scientific organizations, he embarked on a historic journey known as Little America. The expedition changed the history of polar and aviation research. Byrd himself reached the geographic South Pole by plane in 1929, becoming the first person to do so. It was a groundbreaking achievement that cemented Byrd's reputation as one of the greatest explorers of his time. However, despite the fame and success, questions soon began to arise. Byrd described strange occurrences in his reports and noted that Antarctica concealed more than it initially seemed. These strange experiences, however, remained only in his personal diaries and reports, and were never fully noticed by the general public. And we have something very special for you at the end of this documentary about these very diaries. A complete film that brings Admiral Byrd's secret experiences on his journey to the hollow Earth to life. He reported numerous incredible discoveries in Antarctica. And now you can experience them for yourself. What really happened back then will surprise you in a way that will make you really ask, are we being lied to? So be sure to stay until the end so you don't miss this unique adventure. If you like this documentary, show us with a like. This helps us enormously and ensures that this video reaches even more people. So please support us. And now, let's continue with the incredible truth. The world perceived Byrd's journey as a triumphant scientific success, but there were hints that Byrd had encountered unknown, mysterious phenomena during his expeditions, events that later raised even greater mysteries. The geopolitical background and the genesis of Operation High Jump. The late 1930s were a time of growing tensions between the major world powers. The dictatorships of Adolf Hitler in Germany and Benito Mussolini in Italy, as well as the emerging Second World War, put the world's geopolitical order to the test. The expansion and claim to power of the Axis powers led to worldwide fears and political manipulations. Amidst this global uncertainty, the question arose: what role did Antarctica play in the military and scientific plans of the world powers? It was during this time that Byrd, already a celebrated hero of aviation history, was again asked by the US government to lead an expedition to Antarctica. The official reason for this operation was scientific. They wanted to explore the geographical and meteorological conditions of the southernmost continent, map its resources, and gain strategic advantages for the war. But there were also lesser-known reasons behind the mission. A large part of the interest in Antarctica was related to the possibility of gaining military advantages. In the 1930s, there was speculation about the strategic value of the region, especially given the advances being made in rocket science and aviation technology. It was speculated that Antarctica, as a geographical outpost, could have military significance in the event of a war. But what appeared to most to be a simple scientific expedition had deeper dimensions. There were always rumors and suspicions that Byrd's journey was not just about exploring the South Pole, but that there were other, more mysterious goals. The possibility of encountering unknown civilizations or technologies far beyond what the world knew at the time was a theory that kept coming up. Previous and subsequent expeditions to Antarctica. Before Byrd undertook his first expeditions, other explorers had already tackled Antarctica. The most famous among them were the British explorer Robert Falcon Scott and the Norwegian explorer Roald Amundsen. Scott and Amundsen led separate expeditions to the South Pole in 1911, with Amundsen becoming the first person to reach the geographic South Pole and Scott tragically dying while trying to return after his own South Pole expedition. But Byrd's discoveries, especially during the Little America expedition, filled in gaps and opened up a whole new view of the Antarctic continent to the Western world. Many of Byrd's discoveries were based on technological advances, such as the use of aircraft, which mapped Antarctica from the air, providing detailed geographical information for the first time. Numerous other expeditions followed Byrd's operations. The Soviet Antarctic expedition of the 1950s, for example, laid the foundation for the later establishment of the first permanent research stations. But the mysteries Byrd left behind also remained unsolved. These expeditions encountered the known geographical features of Antarctica, but the mysterious incidents and the possibility of underground or previously unknown civilizations that Byrd addressed remained an unsolved mystery. Journey to the unknown pole. In the winter of 1928, Admiral Richard E. Byrd embarked on a journey to one of the most mysterious and inhospitable regions on Earth. Antarctica, the untouched and almost unexplored icy land at the South Pole, was a land of myths and unexplored secrets for the Western world. Byrd, who had already gained international recognition as an aviation pioneer and famous Arctic explorer, was determined to cross Antarctica in a way no one had dared before. With the support of the US Navy and financial backing for this mission, which would go down in history as one of the greatest polar expeditions, Byrd traveled to Antarctica with 2 ships and 3 airplanes. Headquarters were established on the Ross Ice Shelf and named Little America, after the Arctic station Little America that Byrd had established during his earlier travels. Byrd's expedition was scientifically well prepared, but it was also a battle against nature, which captivated the men with endless blizzards, extreme temperatures, and icy winds. But Byrd and his crew fought bravely and defied the conditions. On November 29, 1929, Byrd finally made a groundbreaking flight to the South Pole. With a plane prepared for months, he embarked on a historic flight that would catapult polar exploration into a new era of scientific knowledge. The flight was a success, solidifying Byrd's reputation and making him an international hero. But behind the scientific achievements, another truth was hidden. Byrd felt that Antarctica concealed more than it revealed to the world. In his diary, he wrote about mysterious, inexplicable phenomena he observed during his flight. The route he flew suddenly showed strange magnetic anomalies that led to a significant failure of the compasses. But the true highlight of his flight was the discovery of a previously unexplored area that lay in an eerie silence beneath the shimmering lights of the South Pole. He described in his reports that the icy landscape changed mysteriously and that he felt like he had crossed a border as he reached the center of the polar region. The instruments began to fluctuate, and the plane seemed to become uncontrollable. But Byrd was able to land the plane safely despite the strong magnetic disturbances and the unpredictability of the landscape. The mysterious incident was never fully explained. Some speculated that Byrd had encountered unknown phenomena during his flight, suggesting secret military developments or unknown technologies. In the following years, these mysterious events only raised more questions. The secret world beneath the ice. In 1933, Admiral Byrd embarked on his second major expedition to Antarctica. This time, it wasn't just about mapping and scientifically exploring the region. Byrd wanted to penetrate the remotest corners to gather information that at the time was considered too extraordinary to be true. His goal was to get a better overview of the secret resources and geological features that the continent might be hiding. During this expedition, Byrd came close to death. To advance the work, he settled in an isolated base station far from the main group. The so-called advance base was cut off from the outside world, and Byrd was to collect meteorological and geophysical data there for several months. But what began as a scientific experiment quickly turned into a fight for survival. The base was poorly ventilated, and the carbon monoxide poisoning that Byrd experienced almost killed him. In his diary entries, he described how he increasingly noticed the symptoms of impending suffocation. As his radio messages became increasingly incomprehensible, a rescue team embarked on the dangerous journey to free Byrd. This rescue, one of the most dramatic episodes of his career, was not only a physical struggle for survival, but apparently also a psychological one. Byrd, known for his unwavering determination, could hardly believe what he had experienced. But the stories of Byrd's return to base and his struggle for survival are only part of the whole mystery. In the months after his return to civilization, Byrd reported encounters with unusual magnetic fields and a variety of inexplicable phenomena. Many speculated that during his isolated stay at the base, he had encountered something he could not fully understand. Some scholars and conspiracy theorists point to his diary entries, which give clues to secret, underground structures that could be hidden beneath the ice. There is evidence that Byrd was involved in talks with intelligence agencies and military personnel at the time who were interested in his discoveries. Byrd reportedly suggested in a personal conversation with military leaders that he had found a subterranean world, or perhaps even a hidden civilization, inside Antarctica. This civilization, according to rumors, was capable of using technologies far beyond what was considered possible at the time. The remnants of these secret discoveries were never fully released. Many of the reports were classified as secret and remained closed to the general public. The shadows of Operation High Jump and the dark truth. The next and largest expedition Byrd led would change everything. In 1946, he was entrusted with the leadership of Operation High Jump, a military expedition launched by the US government to explore Antarctica. Officially, the mission was intended to collect geographical and military data that could be important for future strategic decisions in the Arctic region. But the size of the expedition and the involvement of over 4,700 men, 13 ships, and 33 aircraft suggested a far deeper intention. Reports of Operation High Jump are inherently vague and contradictory. Some historians and former members of the expedition claim that extraterrestrial technologies and unknown flying objects appeared during this mission. Rumors have it that while exploring one of the remote regions of Antarctica, Byrd and his men encountered flying objects that appeared to be out of this world. These alleged encounters were never officially confirmed, But the stories and mysterious incidents surrounding the expedition helped spread the theory that Antarctica might be a place of hidden technologies or even a subterranean civilization. The expedition ended abruptly and surprisingly. After Byrd's troops returned, there were reports of an extraordinary reaction from the US government, which declared the mission largely complete. In an interview after the expedition, Byrd spoke of the threat posed by Antarctica, suggesting that hostile powers, no one knew who they were, might be able to move across the poles and act with impressive speed. These statements, coupled with the geographical importance of Antarctica, led to speculation of a conspiracy in which Byrd spoke in a secret diary of a subterranean world inside the polar continent. The contents of this alleged diary were never published. Various reports from the time claim that in this diary, Byrd reported encounters with a high-tech civilization beneath the ice. The civilization is said to have used advanced technologies far superior to those of mankind. In another mysterious incident, it is described how Byrd said in his report that after the encounter, he was sent home with unimaginable knowledge, with the express instruction to keep the discoveries secret in order to protect the world from the possible consequences. To this day, the exact contents of this diary remain a mystery. The story of Byrd's alleged discovery of a subterranean world in Antarctica, inhabited by an advanced civilization, has become all the more mysterious as all evidence has either disappeared or been classified as secret government documents. Linda Moulton Howe and the secret discoveries in Antarctica. Linda Moulton Howe, an investigative journalist and documentary filmmaker, is best known for her work on UFOs, secret government projects, and extraterrestrial phenomena. But particularly fascinating and controversial is her research on Antarctica, where she claims to have come across reports of secret activities and discoveries that the public should never know about. Her sources are based on testimonies from military personnel, former researchers, and insiders involved in classified missions and operations. Some of these reports and conspiracy theories have led to Howe being considered one of the leading voices in Antarctic mythology. The ex-military man and his reports of secret tunnels and pyramids. One of Linda Moulton Howe's best-known stories concerns an interview with an anonymous former military man who reported on a secret expedition he conducted in Antarctica in the 1950s. According to his account, while investigating a remote area of Antarctica, his team stumbled upon a subterranean system of tunnels that could be millions of years old. These tunnels were so precisely constructed that they far exceeded the capabilities of human engineers of that time. Inside these tunnels, they discovered huge holes and chambers that were said to have come from an unknown civilization. Particularly striking were several pyramid structures that differed greatly in shape and function from known pyramid-like structures such as those in Egypt or Mesoamerica. One of the most unusual features of these pyramids was the way they affected the surrounding magnetic field and created unexplained phenomena. Electronic devices failed near the pyramids, and many of the researchers and military personnel reported physical symptoms such as nausea, dizziness, or visions. The expedition was immediately declared a failure by higher government entities due to the discovery, and all evidence was destroyed. Linda Moulton Howe and the conspiracy theories about Antarctica. In her research, Moulton Howe has hypothesized that Antarctica hides more than previously thought possible. She speculates that large parts of the continent were inhabited before the last ice ages, when the climate was much milder. Many of her sources report strange anomalies and findings in the region, possibly pointing to subterranean civilizations or even alien technologies. She suggests that much of these discoveries are buried under the ice, and that the ice sheets may have buried many clues to a pre-Arctic civilization over millennia. A central aspect of her theories is the belief that certain parts of Antarctica serve as secret military zones, where research stations like McMurdo Station and Byrd Station not only collect scientific data, but also serve as bases for secret military or technological projects. These stations are described in many conspiracy theories as places where discoveries are made that go far beyond what the general public will ever know. Howe also repeatedly speaks of forgotten technologies that may have been discovered in Antarctica and whose existence is deliberately suppressed to maintain power and control. The disappearance of the researchers, McMurdo Station, and the secret events. A particularly puzzling incident that Linda Moulton Howe documented in her research concerns the mysterious disappearance of a group of researchers working near McMurdo Station. The incident took place in the 1950s and remains an unsolved mystery. According to reports, a pilot was supposed to pick up a team of scientists working at a remote point in Antarctica. However, when the pilot arrived, the group had vanished without a trace. Instead of the researchers, the pilot found only their equipment and scattered tracks in the snow. Despite an intensive search, no trace of the group could be found. A week later, the pilot returned to continue the mission. To his surprise, he found the group back at their original location. But the researchers were acting strangely. They were physically unharmed but visibly disturbed. When the pilot tried to talk to them, they refused to communicate and seemed trapped in a state of shock. Some of the researchers, other witnesses reported, entered a form of emotional isolation, while others even tried not to talk about what they had experienced during their absence. There were reports that they had returned in a state of collective trauma and fear, as if they had discovered something they could not comprehend or process. Speculations and conspiracy theories. The mysterious events surrounding the disappearance and reappearance of the researchers have led to numerous speculations. Linda Moulton Howe and other conspiracy theorists suspect that the research team may have encountered an ancient technology or alien artifact that had such a profound effect on them that they fell into a state of psychological shock. Some believe that the researchers encountered some kind of interdimensional entity or unknown phenomena that overwhelmed them psychologically. Another thought that keeps popping up in Antarctic conspiracy circles is that the team stumbled upon a military discovery that was considered too dangerous by the world's governments to be released to the public. The mysterious disappearance and the changed behavior of the researchers could, according to some theories, be an indication of the kind of discoveries that intelligence agencies and militaries worldwide deliberately conceal. The role of McMurdo Station and secret technologies. McMurdo Station, one of the largest American research stations on the Antarctic continent, plays a central role in the speculations and conspiracy theories surrounding Antarctica. It is often described as a place where not only geological data and scientific research are carried out, but also as a secret military base that hides much more. According to reports, the station was used by the US not only to study Antarctica's geological resources, but also to search for evidence of extraterrestrial artifacts or subterranean civilizations. Linda Moulton Howe has repeatedly emphasized that Antarctica may be the key to hidden secrets buried deep beneath the ice. Her research and insider reports suggest that there are places in the region that contain secret doors, hidden entrances to unknown artifacts or technologies that could fundamentally change world history and human understanding. Conclusion: the unsolved mystery of Antarctica. The reports by Linda Moulton Howe and other researchers on the secret activities in Antarctica represent a fascinating and disturbing puzzle that is far from being completely solved. The missing researchers, the mysterious pyramids, and the secrets of McMurdo Station raise questions that fuel many speculations and conspiracy theories. Despite the secretive nature of these reports, the question of what is hidden in the depths of Antarctica remains an unsolved mystery that may remain in the shadows of official history for many years, if not centuries, to come. Myths and Legends, a global journey through ancient and modern lore. The fascination with the idea of a hollow Earth and the existence of underground realms isn't new. It's a common thread throughout human history. Ancient stories from many cultures tell of hidden worlds, mystical kingdoms, and advanced civilizations deep inside our planet. This chapter analyzes these myths and legends, from ancient Mesopotamian and Indian tales to Norse epics and pre-Columbian myths. We'll look at the original stories and modern interpretations, always trying to connect them to the geological and geophysical anomalies popping up in recent research. Ancient myths, windows to hidden worlds. Even the earliest civilizations told stories about underground kingdoms. Mesopotamian mythology, for example, talks about Kur, a place separate from the living where gods and spirits dwell. These stories suggest an understanding that went beyond the obvious, a world where the lines between heaven, earth, and the underworld were blurry. Like Sumerian and Babylonian texts, where the afterlife is often described as a deep, mysterious place, Indian Vedic scriptures also hint at hidden areas concealing powerful beings and ancient knowledge. Hinduism often mentions Patala, an underworld home to powerful Nagas, shimmering creatures who are both protectors and harbingers of doom. These ideas are surprisingly similar to modern theories about underground heat chambers, or even man-made hollows hiding advanced civilizations. The similar symbols, like the recurring theme of an underground source of knowledge and transformation, suggest that ancient myths might be metaphorical descriptions of real geological events. Norse and Celtic tales, realms beyond the known world. Norse mythology also has exciting ideas supporting the hollow earth concept. The Vikings believed in Hel, the realm of the dead, deep underground and ruled by the goddess Hel. This idea of an underworld for the souls of the dead is closely tied to the concept of a hidden, parallel realm. Celtic legends are similar, with mystical caves and underground palaces often described as homes of ancient kings and divine beings. Celtic mythology talks about Tir na Nog, a land of eternal youth beyond the visible world, often seen as a gateway to another, magical reality. The imagery of these stories, where caves and underground paths are doorways to a higher truth, has found its way into modern stories. Many alternative researchers point to these ancient tales to support their theories that Earth's depths hold secrets waiting to be discovered by modern science. Pre-Columbian legends and Amazonian tales. Myths from pre-Columbian cultures, especially the Maya and Aztecs, also have fascinating clues about underground worlds. In Mayan cosmology, the underworld, often called Xibalba, plays a central role. This dark yet ornate world is a place of trials where souls are transformed and renewed. The Aztecs worshipped Tlaloc, a god who lived in deep, watery caves, an image that fits surprisingly well with modern ideas of underground river and cave systems. Indigenous peoples of the Amazon also have legends about mysterious underground cities. These stories tell of hidden places inhabited by an ancient, advanced civilization, a theme found in many cultures. The similarities between these myths and recent geophysical research in remote areas suggest a common source for these stories. Perhaps they were metaphorical descriptions of geological structures that were seen as unexplainable wonders back then. Modern interpretations, myth meets science. With the rise of modern geoscience and advanced analysis methods, an interesting dialogue has begun between ancient myths and new discoveries. Researchers exploring alternative explanations often rely on ancient legends to interpret geological anomalies. Satellite images, modern X-ray techniques, and geophysical measurements have revealed unusual structures in remote regions like Antarctica. The connection between these findings and ancient stories is, for many, convincing proof that our world is far more complex and layered than traditional science has suggested. These modern interpretations use the symbols and narratives of ancient myths to bridge the past and current scientific questions. It's not uncommon to hear about aha moments in popular science reports. Moments where the interplay of myth and modern research provides a whole new perspective on our world. Cultural significance and collective consciousness. Ancient myths and legends about underground realms still have a deep impact on our collective consciousness. They're part of the cultural heritage of many people and have a firm place in literature, art, and modern pop culture. Movies, books, and music videos often use hollow earth imagery, expressing humanity's desire to explore the unknown and push the boundaries of reality. This cultural influence is also a key factor in the continued interest in conspiracy theories and alternative scientific approaches. The idea of hidden worlds deep within our planet is a powerful narrative that constantly reinvents itself and appears in different contexts. Whether it's a metaphor for our inner search for meaning or a concrete clue to unknown geological phenomena, these ancient legends continue to inspire generations of researchers, storytellers, and adventurers. Conclusion: the link between myth and reality. This global journey through myths and legends clearly shows that the belief in a hollow earth and hidden realms is deeply rooted in human culture. Whether they are metaphorical representations of geological processes or memories of a long-lost underground civilization, these ancient stories are not easily categorized. Modern technologies and scientific analyses repeatedly provide clues that draw surprising parallels to these old tales. This connection between myth and reality challenges us to question our worldview and remain open to the unexplained. The epic narrative of these myths, spanning from antiquity to the present, provides numerous aha moments, moments where the lines between fiction and reality seem to blur. It encourages us to look beyond the obvious and explore the hidden layers of our world. Perhaps within this tension between ancient wisdom and modern research lies the answer to whether our Earth is truly hollow and what secrets slumber within its depths. Scientific analysis and state-of-the-art X-ray methods, facts versus fiction. In this chapter, we'll dive into the fascinating world of modern geoscience and look at how advanced analytical methods, especially new X-ray techniques, shed new light on the hollow Earth myth. While traditional geological models have assumed a solid Earth, surrounded by solid layers for decades, the latest measurement methods challenge this established idea. This section takes you on a journey through the scientific processes that help decode the mysterious anomalies in Antarctica and other remote regions, comparing them to the ancient stories and traditions that have captured imaginations for generations. The evolution of analytical methods, from classic drilling to high-precision X-ray measurements. The search for the unknown has always driven humanity. Researchers once relied solely on drilling and seismic measurements to map the Earth's interior. However, with technological advancements, it has become possible to gain even deeper and more precise insights into the nature of our planet. Modern X-ray techniques, supplemented by infrared and magnetic field measurements, make it possible to visualize density differences and material compositions in unprecedented detail. These methods use high-energy rays that, similar to medical diagnostics, illuminate the inside of an object. This creates cross-sectional images that help scientists identify hidden cavities, density fluctuations, and even artificial structures. This method can be used to discover not only natural geological formations, but also structures potentially created by intelligent beings. This groundbreaking technology has caused a stir in research centers worldwide in recent years, and repeatedly delivers results that correspond with old reports of expeditions to remote regions, like the mysterious Antarctica. The discovery of geophysical anomalies in Antarctica. Satellite images and high-resolution X-ray analyses have revealed areas in Antarctica in recent years that are characterized by unusual density profiles and temperature distributions. Some of these regions show signatures that are difficult to explain with traditional geology. Scientists suspect that these zones are dominated by mineralogical compositions and tectonic anomalies that may indicate natural cavities or even human intervention. The results of these investigations are discussed in numerous scientific articles and technical reports, but they are often met with skepticism in mainstream science as they challenge the current understanding of the Earth's interior. Here, modern measurement data meets ancient legends. While Admiral Richard E. Byrd and his contemporaries reported underground halls and mystical engravings in their secret diaries, current X-ray images provide fascinating, albeit controversial, evidence of hidden structures. Some alternative research groups interpret this data as proof of the existence of natural, large-scale cavities, which in their complexity and dimension could correspond to the descriptions of ancient traditions. Comparison between ancient lore and modern technology. The parallels between the mystical accounts of ancient civilizations and modern analysis results are remarkable. While ancient myths often speak of hidden kingdoms, mystical portals, and underground temples, current measurement data provides concrete evidence of areas where the normal laws of physics seem to be modified. For example, Admiral Byrd's diaries report areas where temperature and density at depth differed significantly from the usual values, a phenomenon that can now be precisely documented using X-ray and infrared techniques. Modern geoscientists argue that there could be natural causes, such as tectonic fractures, volcanic activity, or unusual mineral accumulations that produce such effects. Whether these explanations are sufficient, or whether there is actual evidence of a hidden civilization, remains the subject of intense debate. While conventional models often refer to purely natural processes, alternative hypotheses suggest that this measurement data could establish a connection to ancient myths, an indication that the Earth is far more complex and multi-layered in its depths than the official worldview has suggested so far. Case studies and spectacular results. Some case studies from recent years demonstrate the discrepancy between classical geological models and the new measurement data. In a specific study area in Antarctica, X-ray analysis revealed unusual cavities whose shape and extent are difficult to reconcile with natural explanations. The results of this study showed that the density of the rock layers in these areas was up to 30% lower than in the surrounding regions, a finding that causes astonishment in established geology. Another spectacular experiment combined the results of X-ray measurements with seismic data. This allowed for the mapping of a network of underground channels and caverns, the complexity of which is reminiscent of descriptions in ancient writings. Scientists involved in this project emphasized that this could be a crucial step in bridging the gap between pure natural phenomenology and the possible discovery of artificial structures. Such interdisciplinary approaches, in which physics, geology, and archaeology work together, open up entirely new perspectives and could revolutionize the previous understanding of the Earth's inner structure. Controversies and the role of alternative research. The new measurement methods have not only caused fascination, but also heated controversy. While some scientists interpret the anomalously low density values and temperature deviations as natural geological features, others believe that these findings could open a window to civilizations long past. This debate reflects the divide between conventional research and alternative theories, often summarized as the hollow Earth theory. Critics argue that many of the alternative interpretations are based on subjective interpretations and selective data selection. Proponents, on the other hand, point to the multitude of cases in which modern analytical methods provide seemingly unsolvable riddles that cannot easily be classified within classical scientific theories. An important aspect of this controversy is the accusation of secrecy. Some alternative researchers claim that government institutions and large research facilities deliberately withhold information to protect the established scientific worldview. Whether this is about economic interests, geopolitical power plays, or simply resistance to revolutionary findings, remains a hotly debated topic. This tension between openness and secrecy adds to the mystique and continued interest in the results of modern X-ray analysis. Conclusion: the synthesis of facts and fiction. Modern science has made enormous progress in recent decades in deciphering the hidden secrets of our planet. X-ray methods and other high-precision analytical techniques offer a fascinating glimpse into the Earth's interior and provide data that sometimes corresponds surprisingly with ancient traditions. Whether these anomalies have purely natural causes or whether they actually represent evidence of underground structures and possibly even a lost civilization remains one of the great mysteries of our time. This chapter has shown that the connection between ancient myths and modern measurement data cannot be dismissed as mere coincidence. The results of the X-ray analyses and geophysical measurements challenge us to question the current worldview and be open to new approaches to interpretation. They open the door to an interdisciplinary discourse in which natural science, archaeology, and mythology work together to decipher the complex layers of the Earth. Ultimately, it is precisely this tension between measurable facts and the fascinating world of speculation that makes the myth of the hollow Earth so irresistible. A narrative that continues to captivate scientists, adventurers, and the general public. Modern research may not yet provide us with all the answers, but it equips us with the necessary tools to explore the mystery step by step. In the synthesis of facts and fiction may lie the key to a deeper understanding of our planet, and to the question of whether the Earth really hides more than we can see with the naked eye. The idea of a civilization living underground and what it means for the Earth, the legacy of a lost world. Before we get to our short film, our last stop takes us to a place of wonder and deep thinking. The heart of the theory that a super-smart civilization lived under the Earth long ago. This idea, found in old stories, mysterious symbols, and puzzling Earth science discoveries, makes us rethink what we know about our planet. Could this underground society have not only existed, but also created the thick layer of Earth above the real core, making the hollow Earth? In this part, we'll look closely at this idea, exploring historical clues, strange geological findings, and cultural stories that paint a picture of a lost civilization. The legend of an underground civilization, myths as secret histories. For ages, stories from many cultures have talked about a hidden world with advanced beings. Old texts and tales from Mesopotamia, India, Celtic lands, and pre-Columbian cultures speak of underground kingdoms like Agartha, Shambhala, or Xibalba, places believed to hold forgotten knowledge and ancient powers. These stories aren't just seen as spiritual symbols, but maybe as clues to a real civilization that existed deep inside our planet long ago. Historians and alternative archaeologists think these stories might be coded messages from a time when humans, or even smarter beings, built underground cities. Geological ideas, how a thick layer of Earth formed. From a geology perspective, the question is, how could an underground society change the Earth so much? Some alternative theories suggest that their activities, like large-scale construction, advanced technology, or even controlling geological processes, could have created massive layers of rock. They propose that the man-made caves and tunnels built by this community became the base for an extra layer over thousands of years. This layer, separating the real inner world from the surface, might have been for protection or insulation. Modern geophysical measurements have found unusual densities in some parts of the Earth, which some believe can't be explained by natural processes alone. Words like Earth's crust, hollow structures, and geological anomalies are important here. Modern research and different interpretations. In recent decades, high-tech tools like X-rays, infrared, and seismic measurements have found areas with unusual density and temperature readings. Some alternative researchers think these readings might show the remains of man-made caves or complex underground networks. The idea that these structures, similar to those documented in Admiral Byrd's diaries, are from a lost civilization is controversial but fascinating. Archaeology, geology, and even astronomy combine to create a picture that goes beyond traditional models. The question, did an underground civilization exist before us, is fueled by buzzwords like lost knowledge, ancient technology, and secret structures found in many YouTube videos, online forums, and blog posts. Cultural similarities and symbolic clues. Not just modern measurements, but cultural and symbolic stories from all times hint at a deeper connection. Ancient carvings found in old temples and caves often look like the mystical symbols described in reports of Antarctic expeditions. The reappearance of symbols linked to the underworld or the other realm suggests that knowledge of this hidden world was passed down through generations, as a warning, a mystery, or even a source of wisdom. Historians see these symbols as metaphors for traveling between worlds, while alternative scientists see them as proof of real technical skills of a long-lost culture. Myths and science together create an exciting discussion where terms like mystical portals, hidden technology, and underground civilization are linked. Final thoughts. The legacy of a lost world. The idea of an ancient civilization deep underground, helping to create a thick layer of Earth, challenges what most scientists believe and fascinates alternative researchers. While traditional Earth scientists point to natural processes like tectonic shifts, volcanoes, and sediment layers, alternative theories encourage us to see the hollow Earth myth as a possible sign of a past, advanced society. This discussion isn't just about history and geology, but also culture and spirituality, shaping human thought for thousands of years. Even though we don't have definite proof of an underground civilization, the exciting similarities between old myths and modern measurements encourage more research and exploration. The mix of facts and fiction in this complex story invites us to question what we think we know about the world and consider that our planet might be more layered and mysterious than we ever imagined. The search for the hidden legacy of a lost world remains one of the most exciting challenges of our time, an epic journey uniting science, mythology, and the human search for truth. Shift your knowledge into high gear, subscribe to The Mighty Brain, and join a community unlocking the universe's secrets. Dive into captivating analyses, fascinating myths, and cutting-edge science that will inspire you. Don't miss exciting videos where we connect ancient legends with the latest technology to uncover our planet's hidden knowledge. Click subscribe and hit the bell to be the first to know about our newest discoveries. Be part of the thinking revolution. Discover, question, and expand your horizons with The Mighty Brain. This is a retelling of Admiral Byrd's secret diary, based on his experiences. The flight into the unknown. Admiral Richard E. Byrd, the man behind the mission. Richard Evelyn Byrd wasn't just any pilot. He was a hero of the skies, an explorer, a visionary. Born in 1888 in Winchester, Virginia, he joined the Navy early and proved himself one of the most talented navigators and aviation pioneers in the U.S. Navy. His explorations of the Arctic and Antarctic earned him international recognition. He was one of the first people to fly over the North Pole, and his later missions made him a leading expert on the polar regions. But the mission entrusted to him in 1947 was different. It was top secret, under the direct supervision of the U.S. military, and funded by powerful forces behind the scenes. It wasn't about simple mapping or scientific exploration. Byrd was supposed to be looking for something that wasn't supposed to exist. Operation High Jump, the real mission. Officially, Byrd was the leader of Operation High Jump, a massive Antarctic expedition with over 4,700 men, 13 ships, and several aircraft. The goal was to explore and establish military bases on the icy continent. But behind the scenes, there were rumors. It was said that the military already had evidence of unexplained phenomena in Antarctica. Satellite images had shown mysterious, warm regions deep within the continent, zones that weren't frozen, even though they should have been surrounded by ice. Even more disturbing were reports of German U-boats from World War II. Some claimed the Nazis had built a secret base in Antarctica, an underground fortress where they developed technologies unknown to the world. Some insiders spoke of a new Swabia base, where experiments were conducted with aircraft that were out of this world. Byrd himself didn't think much of conspiracy theories, but his superiors were convinced. Deep beneath the eternal ice, there was a secret that no one should know, and Byrd was supposed to find it. The flight begins. It was February 19th, 1947. Byrd sat in his specially equipped aircraft, a Douglas DC-3, a sturdy twin-engine transport plane designed for extreme weather conditions. The plane had been modified to fly stably in the thin polar air and to allow for longer exploration flights. Next to him in the cockpit sat Lieutenant Harold E. Hal Marchant, his experienced co-pilot and navigator. Marchant was a quiet man, a veteran who had flown numerous missions with Byrd. "Clear skies, stable air currents," Marchant reported, checking the instruments. "Perfect conditions," Byrd murmured, letting his gaze wander over the seemingly endless white beneath them. But then, an anomaly. The discovery of the impossible. The radio started to crackle. "Admiral, our compasses. They're spinning." Byrd frowned. The needle of the magnetic compass was spinning wildly. The gyroscopes were also showing unstable values. He reached for the radio. "Base camp, this is Flight Delta Echo. We have a navigation anomaly. Confirm our position." Silence. Only static came through the radio. Marchant pointed to the altimeter. "Sir, do you see that?" Byrd followed his gaze. The display suddenly showed 5,000 feet below their actual altitude, but that couldn't be. They had been flying at a stable 11,500 feet, but now it looked as if the ground had mysteriously risen. And then he saw it. In front of them, a huge black chasm opened in the eternal ice. The gateway to another world. It wasn't a natural crack. It was a perfect circle, at least 30 miles in diameter. An opening that extended deep into the earth. A wave of dizziness washed over Byrd as he saw the impossible. Warm mist rose from inside this opening. And beyond this mist, Greenland. Dense forests, a river winding through valleys. A sun that wasn't the sun they knew. "That's not possible," Marchant gasped. Byrd couldn't look away. He felt his mind rebelling against accepting what his eyes were seeing. And then, a feeling. It started as a slight vibration in his bones, growing stronger, more intense. Suddenly the plane began to descend. The force that called him. "All systems are failing," Marchant frantically pulled at the controls. "We're being guided," Byrd said softly. It didn't feel like a crash. It was as if they were being gently pulled down by an invisible hand. The humming grew louder. And then, a voice. Not from the radio, not from the speakers, directly in their minds. "Admiral Richard E. Byrd, you are expected." A flash of light, a feeling as if time stood still around him. Passing through the gate. The plane was completely captured and pulled through the opening. The sky, the outside world, the ice, everything disappeared behind them. They passed through a barrier that wasn't a barrier. Light pulsed around them, the sense of space and time dissolved. Byrd felt that he wasn't just flying through the sky, but through a boundary that wasn't meant to be crossed. The instruments were dead, but he knew they wouldn't crash. They were being guided. And then, silence. Byrd opened his eyes. The plane had landed. And before him, a world that wasn't supposed to exist. The encounter with the Guardians. The first perception of a foreign world. Admiral Richard E. Byrd sat frozen in his cockpit. His breath came in ragged gasps, his heart pounding in his chest. Next to him, Lieutenant Harold Marchant stared wide-eyed out the front window of the Douglas DC-3. What they saw defied all laws of nature. The plane had landed gently, not on an ice-covered surface, but on a flawless, green plain. The runway, if you could call it that, consisted of a smooth, almost metallic, shiny surface that blended perfectly into the surroundings. And these surroundings were incredible. Around them stretched vast valleys, crossed by crystal-clear rivers that snaked like veins through the lush green. Giant trees with golden leaves towered into the sky, while in the distance, majestic snow-capped mountains disappeared into the clouds. But the sky? Byrd frowned. The light was different. It was soft, warm, but not from a sun he knew. There was no harsh source that glared or cast shadows. It was as if the entire atmosphere itself emitted a soft, golden glow. "This isn't possible," Marchant whispered. Byrd took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. They had landed. But where? The eerie silence. There was no wind, no sound of birds or animals. Only the faint hum in the air, a barely perceptible sound that vibrated deep in the bones. Then, as if from nowhere, something began to move. Byrd and Marchant stared at a hill near the landing site. And there, graceful and with almost unearthly elegance, figures walked towards them. The Guardians of Agartha. They were human, and yet not human. They were tall, at least 7 feet, with slender but powerful bodies. Their skin had a soft golden shimmer, almost as if the light shone within them. Their faces were of flawless beauty, high cheekbones, large intelligent eyes that shone in deep blue or radiant green. But the most uncanny thing was their aura of calmness and wisdom. These beings radiated a sublime serenity, a presence that touched Byrd deep inside. He felt no hostility, on the contrary. A strange feeling of familiarity came over him, as if he had finally come home after a long time. The telepathic greeting. None of the beings spoke, and yet... "Admiral Richard E. Byrd, we have been expecting you." Byrd's eyes widened. The voice wasn't heard through his ears. It was in his mind. Marchant seemed to feel it too, for he flinched slightly. Byrd touched his ear. Radio contact? But he knew it wasn't the radio. One of the beings stepped closer. He was slightly taller than the others, and his eyes sparkled like living crystals. "Your mind is confused, but you need not fear. We are the guardians of this realm. Our world is Agartha, and you are the first of your kind to be invited to enter it." Byrd swallowed hard. He wanted to speak, but his mouth was dry. The invitation. The beings made a gentle gesture with their hands, a sign to follow them. Byrd hesitated. Was this a trick, an illusion? But his instinct told him there was no threat here. He glanced at Marchant. His co-pilot was pale, but he nodded curtly. With a deep breath, Byrd stepped forward. The beings led them down a curving path that led into the valley. Byrd felt the soft, warm ground beneath his boots. No ice, no frozen stone, but living, breathing land. And then he saw it. The city beneath the earth. Far ahead of them, nestled in a valley between the mountains, lay a city, but not a city like any Byrd had ever seen. The buildings weren't made of stone or metal, but seemed to be formed from a glassy substance that shimmered in all colors. Towers rose into the sky, not built of walls, but of pure energy. Some even floated above the ground, as if gravity had a different meaning here. "My God," Marchant whispered. The being stopped and pointed to a large hall in the center of the city. "The council awaits you." Byrd couldn't help but continue. He had to find out what was going on here. The Guardian's warning. As they reached the hall, the giant gates opened without a sound. Inside, an atmosphere of stillness prevailed, broken only by the soft hum of the crystal structures that formed the walls. A glow pulsed in the center of the room, and then the elders appeared. They were older than the Guardians, but their eyes were infinitely deep, full of knowledge and secrets. One of them spoke, directly into Byrd's mind. "We know why you are here, Admiral. You seek the truth about your own world, but be warned, not everyone will be ready to accept it." Byrd felt a slight pressure in his head. "Your civilization stands at a crossroads. Your leaders have unleashed forces that could plunge the surface world into chaos and destruction. You are here because we have a message for you, a message that can save your world from its doom." Byrd swallowed. These beings knew about humanity. They knew more than any government, more than any science. But what exactly did they mean? And why was he being led here of all places? The revelation of history. The knowledge of the elders. Admiral Byrd stood with a pounding heart in the great hall of the elders. The glowing crystal walls cast a soft golden light on him and his co-pilot, Harold Marchant. Before them rose tall, shimmering figures, the elders of Agartha. Their eyes radiated a deep wisdom that Byrd couldn't grasp. They were beings beyond human understanding, yet he felt no threat in their presence, only immense knowledge. Then one of the elders began to speak, not with words but directly into his mind. "Admiral Richard E. Byrd, you have been brought here because your world is at a turning point. Humanity is in danger, and you must deliver our message." Byrd took a deep breath. He had countless questions. Where exactly were they? Who were these beings? And what did they know about the human world? A lost history. One of the elders stepped closer and raised a hand. Immediately, the air in front of him began to shimmer, a projection, a vision of the past. Byrd and Marchant watched, wide-eyed, as an image formed before them. A large, radiant city built on the surface of the earth. It was larger than any city Byrd had ever seen, with towers of shining crystal and floating platforms on which elegant vehicles moved. There was once a time when your ancestors and we were united. Humanity was not always on the path of destruction. Thousands of years ago, we lived together in harmony, in the cities of Atlantis and Lemuria. Byrd's breath caught in his throat. Atlantis? Lemuria? Weren't those myths? But the images that appeared before him were too real to be made up. He saw the people of these ancient civilizations, tall, elegant, with an aura of knowledge and power. They communicated without words, used technologies that surpassed anything modern humanity possessed. Atlantis and Lemuria were not legends. They were the centers of ancient knowledge. Their inhabitants understood the nature of energy, matter, and consciousness. But then, the unthinkable happened. The fall of the great civilizations. The projection changed. The radiant cities began to tremble. The sky darkened. Flames and giant waves engulfed the once flourishing metropolises. Byrd and Marchant couldn't hide the shock on their faces. The destruction didn't come from natural disasters alone. Your ancestors began to misuse forces they didn't understand. They opened gateways to powers that were not meant for them. Again, the vision changed. Now images appeared of giant machines working with energies that seemed to tear the earth itself apart. Huge explosions shook the land, and finally the continents sank into the depths of the ocean. Those of us who survived retreated, here, to the inner world. We created Agartha, a refuge where ancient knowledge was preserved. But your surface world was plunged into chaos. Your ancestors forgot their origins, and over time, knowledge became myths, truths became legends. Byrd couldn't believe what he was seeing, but deep down, he felt it was true. The warning for humanity. One of the elders now stepped directly in front of him. His gaze was full of seriousness. Admiral Byrd, humanity is once again facing the same danger. Your leaders are playing with forces they do not understand. They are experimenting with weapons that could disrupt the balance of the Earth. If you do not stop, you will suffer the same fate as Atlantis. Byrd knew exactly what they were talking about. The world had entered a dangerous arms race after World War II. The development of atomic bombs and new weapons had unleashed a destructive dynamic. The superpowers were experimenting with technologies far beyond their knowledge. There are forces in your world that do not want this knowledge to come to light. They fear losing their control over humanity. But you must spread the truth, no matter the dangers. The legacy of the underworld. The elders raised their hands again, and a strange object appeared before Byrd, a small crystalline disc. This is the legacy of Agartha. It contains information that your scientists can understand if they are ready. But it is not meant for everyone. Choose wisely to whom you show it. Byrd took the disc in his hands. It felt warm, pulsed slightly as if it were alive. Marchant whispered nervously, "Sir, if all this is true, then the government will never allow this to get out to the public." Byrd knew he was right, but he had no choice. The elders stepped back. "Your journey is not yet over, but now you must return." Byrd felt a strange tingling in his body. The surroundings began to blur, as if reality itself was dissolving. Then, a flash of light. And suddenly, They were back in the cockpit of their plane. The return through the portal. The humming was back. The instruments in the DC-3 came back to life. Byrd whipped his head around. The Guardians were still standing outside on the clearing, but now they began to slowly retreat. The large opening in the earth began to close. "Sir, we have control again," Marchant shouted, reaching for the controls. Byrd gripped the controls tighter. They had to go back. But what were they going to do with the knowledge they had received? He took one last look back at the world that was never supposed to exist, a world that had survived in secret. Then he pulled the plane up. The earth below them turned back into ice and snow, and with a final flicker, Agartha disappeared from their view. Returning to a silent world. Flying through the unknown. The Douglas DC-3 shuddered as Admiral Byrd and his co-pilot, Harold Marchant, climbed back into the icy expanse of Antarctica through swirling air currents. The instruments went haywire, the compass spun wildly, the altimeter showed crazy readings, and even the radio spat out only static. "Sir, this is insane. Our instruments say we're at 30,000 feet, but that's impossible," Marchant shouted, desperately trying to regain control of the systems. Byrd knew better. They had just left a place that shouldn't exist according to modern science. His gaze flickered to the small crystalline disk resting securely in his jacket pocket. It pulsed faintly, as if it were more than just a simple object, as if it were alive. "Stay calm, Lieutenant," Byrd said firmly. "Our goal is to get through this blasted storm and back to base, but that was easier said than done." A crack in reality. The world around them had strangely changed. They were flying through a shimmering fog, a play of light and colors Byrd had never seen before. It was as if reality itself was warping and rippling, as if they were gliding through an invisible membrane separating two worlds. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, it was over. The instruments calmed down. The fog dissipated. The light changed, becoming colder, grayer. Below them stretched the endless icy wasteland of Antarctica once more. Marchant gasped. "My God, sir, we're back." Byrd nodded slowly. But something was different. The lost time. He glanced at his wristwatch. It still showed the same time as when they entered the portal. Not a single moment seemed to have passed. But that couldn't be. They had spent hours in Agartha, met the elders, heard their stories, and yet it seemed as if no time had passed. Byrd felt a cold shiver down his spine. Had he just experienced some kind of time paradox? Was it possible that the laws of time worked differently in this hidden world? Marchant stared at him, eyes wide. "Sir, that's impossible. We spent at least 3 hours down there. And yet—" "I know," Byrd murmured, "but we don't have time for speculation. We have to get back to base. There's a lot to report." But deep down, he knew it wouldn't be that simple. The first signs of control. When they finally reached the U.S. Antarctic base after several hours of flight, a surprise awaited Byrd. No sooner had they touched down than several military jeeps sped towards them. Armed soldiers surrounded the plane before the propellers had even come to a complete stop. Marchant slid open the cockpit window. "What the heck is going on here?" An officer in a heavy coat and with a grim expression approached the plane. "Admiral Byrd, you will be taken to the commander immediately. Get out." Byrd and Marchant exchanged a look. This wasn't the usual welcome after a reconnaissance flight. Byrd felt an invisible grip tighten around him. They knew something. He discreetly reached into his jacket pocket and squeezed the small crystalline disc. If the men here found out what they had brought back, there would be serious consequences. The interrogation. They were led into a sparsely lit building where several high-ranking officers were already waiting. Byrd was seated at a table. A man in a dark uniform coat leaned over him. "Admiral, I'll get straight to the point. Your plane hasn't shown up on any of our radars for hours. You practically vanished. Where did you fly?" Byrd considered his answer carefully. "We had trouble with the navigation instruments and ran into a storm. That might have interfered with our radio connection." The officer shook his head. "Admiral, we're not stupid. You entered an area you weren't supposed to know about." Byrd remained calm, but inwardly, a cold shiver ran down his spine. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Oh yes you do. Now listen to me carefully." The man leaned closer. "There are certain secrets that must remain hidden at all costs. You've stumbled into something that's above your pay grade. From now on, you'll be under strict secrecy. Everything you saw or heard, you forget it." Byrd felt his pulse quicken. They knew about Agartha. And they wanted to make sure the truth never came to light. The elder's message, and the decision. The elder's voice echoed within him. "Your world is in danger. You must share the truth, no matter the risks." Byrd knew this was his test. He could comply, remain silent, and let the knowledge die. Or he could take the risk and try to prepare the world for what was coming. He took a deep breath and made his decision. In a calm voice, he said, "I understand, sir. I will abide by the regulations." The officer studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Good. You are now under strict secrecy. If anything about what happened today gets out, you should be aware that there will be consequences." Byrd nodded. But deep down, he knew he was already hatching a plan. He couldn't stay silent. Not when the fate of the entire world was at stake. The hidden powers and the hunt for the truth. The shadows in the background. Admiral Byrd knew he was being watched. Since his return from Antarctica, his every move had been observed by shadowy figures in the background. Men in black suits, not belonging to the military, had appeared at the base. They spoke quietly with high-ranking officers, then disappeared back into the shadows. Byrd was a seasoned officer. He had seen wars, worked with generals and politicians, but this was different. It was a different kind of power, an invisible force that seemed to stand above everything. These men knew he had seen something he shouldn't have. And they weren't about to let him get away with it. The secret report. At night, hidden in his quarters, Byrd began writing down his experiences. He described the eerie discovery in Antarctica, the massive hole in the earth, the shimmering lights beneath the ice, the unexpected failure of the instruments, and finally, the moment they entered a world that shouldn't exist. He wrote about the beings in Agartha, about their warning, about the incredible secrets of the ancient civilizations of Atlantis and Lemuria. He knew this report would never be officially published. But he had to write it anyway, for posterity, for those who would one day be ready to recognize the truth. As he put the last words on paper, he took a deep breath. He knew what he was doing was dangerous. But he had no choice. The first attack. The next morning, his quarters had been searched. His closets were open, his papers scattered on the floor. But the most important thing was missing. He had hidden his report safely. But that wasn't the most unsettling thing. Looking out the window, he saw a black car parked at the edge of the base. 2 men were sitting in it. They didn't move. They were just watching. Byrd knew. This was a warning. He was on a list now, and if he wasn't careful, he would end up as an accident or missing in the government's files. The secret meetings. A few days later, Byrd was summoned again, this time not to the military, but to a secret meeting in Washington. As he entered the dark room, he saw them. Men in expensive suits, with serious faces. Not generals, not politicians. This was a different level of power. The highest-ranking man, an older gentleman with piercing eyes, leaned forward. Admiral Byrd, you have seen something that is not meant for public consumption. Byrd calmly returned his gaze. I experienced an unusual flight. Yes. The man smiled thinly. Let's not play games, Admiral. We know what you saw. We know where you were, and we know you tried to write a report about it. Byrd remained silent. Listen carefully. There are things beyond public comprehension. And there are things that must never come to light. You have two choices. You forget what you saw, or you disappear. Byrd felt his stomach clench. He knew these men were serious. An unexpected ally. As Byrd left the building, he felt like a man fighting an invisible war. He couldn't talk to his family about it. He couldn't talk to his comrades about it. He was alone. But that night, someone knocked on his door. When he opened it, a man in civilian clothes stood there, his expression serious. Admiral Byrd? I'm a friend, and I know you're not alone. Byrd let him in. The man looked around, then spoke softly. We know what you discovered, and we know you're being pressured to keep quiet. But you mustn't be silent. There are people, a network, who are interested in the truth. Byrd frowned. Who are you? The man smiled faintly. Someone who believes that the truth cannot be hidden forever. We can help you, but you have to be careful. Byrd realized he had a choice. Give up, or fight. And he knew he couldn't give up. Not as long as the world still lived in ignorance. The fight for the truth. The secret network. Admiral Byrd knew he had no time to lose. The men who wanted to silence him weren't just ordinary government officials or military personnel. They were part of an invisible power structure that had been operating for centuries. But now he had an ally. The mysterious man who had visited him introduced himself as Jonathan Reeves, a member of a secret group dedicated to preserving hidden knowledge. We have eyes and ears everywhere, Reeves explained, placing a small worn notebook on the table. Here are the names of scientists, historians, and former military personnel who have also stumbled upon traces of Agartha, and who have all been silenced. Byrd flipped through the pages. The entries were disturbing: sudden accidents, mysterious suicides, missing persons. This is no coincidence, Reeves said seriously. The world must not know what you discovered in Antarctica. They don't just want to silence you, they want to bury the whole truth forever. Byrd took a deep breath. Then we have to bring it to light. A secret manuscript. Reeves nodded and pulled another document from his pocket. I have something you might be interested in. It was an old manuscript, yellowed and typed on an old-fashioned typewriter. Byrd recognized the name immediately: Colonel William Donovan. He was one of the first American officers to gather information on underground civilizations in the 1930s, Reeves explained. He came across evidence that the Nazis were intensely interested in Agartha, long before your expedition. Byrd scanned the pages. It described in detail how the Germans had established a secret base in Antarctica during World War II, known as Neuschwabenland. They were convinced that an ancient technology was hidden beneath the ice that could revolutionize their warfare. But the most shocking part was the last chapter. Reports suggest that the Nazis found a passage to a hidden world. But before they could complete their research, they were repelled by an unknown force. It is suspected that they came into contact with beings who did not want their secret revealed. Byrd closed the document and looked at Reeves. "That means I wasn't the first to enter Agartha. And you won't be the last," Reeves replied. "The secret military project." But Byrd knew it wasn't that easy to release this information. Just a few days later, he was summoned again to a top-secret meeting at the Pentagon. This time, scientists were present in addition to high-ranking military personnel. A general with cold gray eyes began to speak. "Admiral Byrd, you were part of Operation High Jump. But what you didn't know was that it wasn't just an expedition, it was a covert mission. We have evidence that an advanced civilization exists beneath the ice, and we need to understand who or what we're dealing with." Byrd remained silent, but his heart was racing. "The government is planning a second mission," the general continued. "One that is better prepared this time. You will participate." Byrd felt he was being lured into a trap. These men didn't want to research, they wanted to bring Agartha under their control. "And if I refuse?" he asked calmly. The general looked at him intensely. "Then we'll make sure your name and reputation are destroyed. You know too much, Admiral." Byrd knew he didn't have many options. The decision. In the following days, he met secretly with Reeves and his network. They had a daring idea. If Byrd couldn't stop the second expedition, he had to at least try to secure evidence from Agartha, before the government covered everything up. They developed a risky plan. Byrd would officially participate in the second expedition, but secretly gather reports and evidence. The network would meanwhile publish his first documentation to gain public attention. If Byrd was discovered, he had a contingency plan to pass secret documents to trusted individuals. Byrd knew this was his last chance. If he failed, the truth would be buried forever.